can tell you people they were the devil's children.
Greetings from Castle Goring on this rather overcast and slightly chilly Sunday afternoon of the Jubilee weekend. I trust you have enjoyed yourselves as much as I have. It's been quite something, hasn't it? I have to say, I have enjoyed every moment of it, except the lack of sleep. Putting that aside, it's been absolutely wonderful. And without further ado, if Aurora will allow me to, I am going to plunge right in. Goodness gracious, Aurora. Vivian Anderson says, "Dear Lady C, do you know if William and Harry oh dear, have actually met and spoken to each other at all since Harry arrived in the UK, or have they just been seated apart at Jubilee events due to protocol seniority only? I love your videos." Thank you very much. Well, that's a little bit layered. So let me start off with the fact that Harry and Meghan have been tremendously demoted. I know that they need the royal connection to hawk their wares, and they still have it. But it is now very apparent that they are second row. And second row, let me tell you, at, say, a fashion show, means that you don't cut the mustard. So there is a degree of separation owing to the fact that Harry and Meghan have been demoted in terms of precedence. You notice they were seated not only on the other side of the aisle, away from the senior royals, but that they weren't even seated in the first row. Lord and Lady Frederick Windsor. She is the actress Sophie Winkleman. They were in the first row, but Harry and Meghan weren't. My understanding is that, and I need to put this in the context of the announcements made by Meghan's propagandist camp last week or week before last, that Harry and William have been FaceTiming each other, Zooming each other, actually most likely having love fraternal fests with each other, singing Meghan's praises. And they're going to teach William and Catherine how to be humanitarians, one act of compassion at a time. Nikki, tell Thomas Markle that Meghan says the way to be a compassionate human being is to ice your family. And Catherine Cambridge needs to take a leaf out of her book, because the fact of the matter is that Catherine Cambridge is very family orientated. And Meghan's here to tell everybody that's a big no-no, because that's going to keep you from achieving your potential. Well, the puppy is biting my hand. Oh dear. My understanding is that William not only has Harry's measure, but has Meghan's measure. I said it in my book. I've said it repeatedly. If you saw Meghan's reaction when Catherine and William walked in to St. Paul's Cathedral to take their seats. She did what's that weird actress who adjusted her scarf ostentatiously when the Cambridges arrived at wherever it was, I've forgotten. Well, a friend of Meghan's. Well, Meghan has obviously taken a leaf out of her book. I think her name is Priyanka Chopra or some such thing. Anyway, Meghan looked away very pointedly. Doesn't that say an awful lot about the closeness between the two brothers and their wives? My understanding is that both Catherine and William have Meghan's measure in full. And as somebody said to me last night at one of the Jubilee events that I attended, the problem for the Cambridges is even if they see Meghan and Harry in a controlled environment, unless everything is taped and recorded, audio as well as visual, from the very beginning to the very end, and certified to have no interruptions whatsoever. Not only will recollections vary, but the embroiderers will bring out their embroidery needles and their embroidery thread, and they will create the most vivid picture that suits their narrative at the moment. So, in a nutshell, William and Catherine are avoiding the opportunity for inventiveness and for inventions. I think that answers the question, hopefully. Neil says, that 2-minute sketch with Her Majesty and Paddington Bear has literally made me forget all about my worries and woes. COVID, Smovid. It was pure magic. I've never seen the Queen so relaxed. Well, you know, the Queen's a game old bird and she has a fabulous sense of humour. And she's quick as lightning. And of course, like all public figures, she is an accomplished performer. The difference between Meghan and the Queen is one never resorts to artifice. One always maintains her integrity by never posing. I thought it was very witty and very funny too. And it shows that the Queen has a great sense of humour and she doesn't take herself too seriously. She takes her role very seriously. And she takes her duty very seriously. But does she take herself very seriously? Clearly not. Otherwise she wouldn't be dropping out of the sky and having tea with Paddington Bear. Very British, I've got to say. I hope that our American sisters and brothers and our Commonwealth sisters and brothers enjoy the humour, because I think it's very funny. As indeed I think did most people here. Lydia Berlow says, may one inquire as to why Prince Charles and Prince William wish to update the monarchy when in the course of her 70 years on the throne, Queen Elizabeth II has shown exactly how things should work and should be done. Lydia Berlow, that's a very interesting observation. The Queen and Prince Philip were both changes, but they changed slowly, gradually, and safely, because precipitate and precipitous and excessive change create instability. The only change that rarely works is change that is gradual and that takes into account the push and pull not only of the societal trend, sorry, but also the fact that destabilizing a society with too rapid or too dramatic change never is in its interests. Never. Having said that, there are protocols that could, I think, be slightly upgraded and are being changed. I'm not so sure I would go along with William and Catherine's thing of having everybody call them by their Christian names. But if that's the way they want to be, fair dues. I mean, I was a guest at a certain castle quite recently, and the chef calls the his employers, let's put it that way, his employers, let's stick to contemporary terms, by their Christian names. And because he knows me and likes me, he called me by my Christian name. Was I offended? Of course not. Did I think it was sweet? Yes, he likes me. You know, respect comes in many ways, shapes, and forms. And I think, to an extent, some of the lack of formality that Kate and William are trying to introduce is a good thing. Robert Mesk says, "Dear Lady C, my comments are in regards to the Queen's Jubilee celebration. Well, it seems a sizable portion of the British public has made it very clear to the dastardly duo, horrid and megalomaniac, that they're no longer welcome. The booing and jeering were loud and distinct amongst the sound of the loud church bells. The fake, frozen smile on megalomaniac's face and the look of uncomfortable embarrassment on Horrid's was priceless." There's hope for Harry yet. That 3% that's not been got rid of is hope for the future. Meghan is 100% a creation of herself. A fantasy figure brought to life. That Richter smile, followed by the constant smirk. Of course, she's very aware of the fact that she looks best when her face isn't in repose. To an extent, some of Meghan's beauty, in quotes, is presentation and determination over nature. I get it. And I wouldn't say admire, but I certainly respect the energy and the determination that go into the creation of an image that bears so little accord with the reality of the person, whether it is their physical being, their natural assets, or the person they now are, and in fact were obviously always. But what I find interesting is because I've seen the clips of Meghan and Harry going into St. Paul's Cathedral and exiting. There are chairs when they enter, as well as boos. But when they exit, the boos supersede anything affirmative tremendously. And what is really interesting is that the media haven't picked it up. They are ignoring it. Now, you have to ask yourself why. Well, remember, 60 to 70% of the British media are pro-Republican, anti-monarchist, whether they are left-wing or right-wing. We need to bear that in mind. The other segment of the media population, for instance, the Mail. I mean, I read the Mail. I have to tell you, I have no respect whatsoever for the Mail as a newspaper when it covers certain things. When it's on its sociological campaigns, it can be very good. But at all other times, don't buy lavatory paper. Use the Mail. But don't even bother to read it. Just use it. I have to read it because it's a part of my duty as a writer to read it. They asserted boldly that there were loud cheers and completely ignored the boos. Well, you could say they've been stung by Meghan and Harry. However, whatever happened to the truth? Just mention that for what it's worth. Becca Stephanie Thornquist says, "Dear sweet Lady C, 5 hearts with golden bows." Thank you. The hope that you and your precious doggies have enjoyed the Jubilee celebrations so far. Well, I don't know about them, I have. In fact, I had to abandon them here with my son while I was out and about on my peregrinations, but we'll get to those in a moment. Wasn't it just lovely seeing our gracious Queen on the balcony, watching the fly past after trooping the colour? And it was so adorable when she was chatting to little Prince Louis. I have a couple of questions for you. What is your take on Megsy finding opportunities by the windows to be photographed? And I'm going to answer that one before going on to the rest of the question because it's a long question and it's really several questions. Well, Meghan and Harry were instructed to keep a low profile and agreed to do so. But Meghan couldn't resist the temptation. Meghan has a very antisocial streak in her personality. Give her a rule, she needs to break it. She'd like to present herself as a champion of liberty, fraternity, equality, feminism. The truth is, you see people like this in prison every day of the week. People who cannot see a rule without breaking it. It's one of the signs of people who have antisocial tendencies. in the fully blown scenario, the antisocial personality suffers from antisocial personality disorder, which is full-blown sociopathy or psychopathy. But many people have some aspects of antisocial personality, and indeed there are some thinkers who would say that a healthy personality will be rebellious as and when it is appropriate. It's called courage. That's not the same thing as agreeing to something, and Meghan was the only person who rolled down her car window. Nobody else did. Because she needs that injection, that fix of attention. She needs it. She is addicted to fame and to attention. She cannot survive without them. I am told that Harry was furious with her. He was not pleased. And the expression on his face indicates that what I was told is accurate. Then I will continue with the question. Did you see the picture of her from the Thanksgiving service, allegedly wearing a microphone under her coat? I did see the picture. Maybe she was in communication with Lilibet. You know, she's such a devoted mother. One act of compassion at a time. One plane journey at a time. Private planes, of course. Oh, and that reminds me to interject and hive off and hopefully then pick up back the subject. Did you notice the propaganda when they were coming over that was laid down for the delectation of the public by Sunshine Sachs and Megsy Baby and Harry Dumbo's team, that they had boarded a commercial flight at Lax and landed in London? Well, my information, and thank you so much for it, was that they had landed at Farnborough. And I was on the Piers Morgan show, Piers Morgan Uncensored, with Lady Victoria Harvey and Katie Nicholl. And unfortunately, we were there to discuss the Jubilee, and the Johnny Depp verdict was announced. And isn't it wonderful that the abused vanquished the abuser? And this nonsense from Amber Heard about freedom of speech. Freedom of speech doesn't give you the right to lie. And this is something as well that Meghan and Harry's team and their supporters don't seem to understand. Propaganda is lying. Misinformation isn't disagreeing with you when you're lying. It is absolutely outrageous that Amber Heard would have tried to turn the verdict of the court into a free speech issue, and that the rich man has vanquished the poor innocent little girl No, sweetie pie. Those of us who had eyes to see, ears to hear, and a brain to think with saw that you were a total fraud and that you were the abuser. Anyway, on the show, the Piers Morgan show, it was completely hijacked by the Johnny Depp verdict. But I was able to tell the world, so to speak, via Piers, that you can come up, that yes, Harry and Meghan had not flown commercial. They had landed in a private jet at Farnborough. And the Mail, in the earlier editions, had Harry and Meghan's lie from their PR people about them flying commercial. Then they had to change it because I had spilt the beans. Isn't it annoying when people speak the truth? I mean, Hitler had this problem as well. You know, anybody who disagreed with him and the Goebbels version of reality, which always bore scant relationship to reality, was silenced or rounded up. Well, of course, Hitler had real power. Harry and Meghan don't have real power. What they do have is influence, and they try to use it ruthlessly to silence anybody who dares to speak the truth and expose their fake narrative for the fraudulent version of facts that it is. So now we come to, did you see the picture of her from the Thanksgiving service allegedly wearing a microphone under her coat? I've seen the pictures. I don't know that it's a microphone, but I wouldn't put anything past her. Remember what Harry said. Meghan is capable of anything. And her conduct has shown that she is capable of anything. No boundary means anything to her if it stands in the way of her objective. Sorry, I have to get rid of something that the puppy is trying to chew on, which it cannot chew on because it's irreplaceable. Did she have a microphone? Your guess is as good as mine, but I wouldn't put it past her. That, if she had a microphone on, shows real paranoia. But as I have said before, the medical experts to whom I have spoken are convinced that both Meghan and Harry exhibit real paranoia. Proper paranoia. Fully blown paranoia. Then, last but not least, the Sussex squad and the Sugars have been paying much attention, maybe too much attention, to William and Catherine. Apparently they are saying that they were angry with each other at the Thanksgiving service, as they never held hands. Sweetie pie, civilized people don't hold hands constantly. Only egotists and the ill-bred hold hands constantly. Unless, of course, you're giving a message. William and Catherine don't need to give a message. They are not pretending or posing as or hoping to be taken as Harry and Meghan, Romeo and Juliet, Abelard and Eloise, Bonnie and Clyde, and all those other famous couples throughout history who all loved each other so much. Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. Also, they say the looks they sent each other were very frosty. They weren't frosty. They were perfectly considered and appropriate for the occasion. They didn't need to be supporting each other, beaming beatifically, like Meghan. Well, I love you so much. You're so wonderful. I go exactly as I say. Have you any inside stories, and can you please confirm that this is just vicious rubbish coming from these sad people? I thought that Catherine and also Sophie were so beautiful and elegant, and such a pride to our precious, gracious Queen. Have a lovely weekend, Lady C. Lots of love to you, Mickey and Aurora. Thank you very much. Well, William and Catherine, my understanding is, have Harry and Meghan's measure in full, as I have said before. It is a difficulty how you are going to, with dignity, starve the oxygen suckers of the oxygen that you require to breathe. My understanding is that the way things have turned out has been so far, and I say so far because don't ever say anything until the absolute end with certainty. But so far, and the weekend isn't over yet, and Harry and Meghan haven't yet been able to roll down a new car window or come up with some other antic, which they might not, hopefully they won't. But asking them has turned out to be the absolutely right move. Indeed, it was the perfect ploy, because the Queen has outmanoeuvred them. You see, had they not been asked, they would have been in California or New York or Timbuktu, or maybe feeding the starving masses in... No, where's the latest photo up? Look how compassionate we are, one grain of rice at a time. They could have created havoc, and doubtless would have created havoc, by asking them, orchestrating things very carefully, because everything has been orchestrated, make no mistake about it, with the consent, knowledge, and approval of the Queen, who has embraced them to her ample bosom, and, as somebody said to me, arm-locked them with her embrace. It is the perfect evocation of keep your friends close and your enemies closer. They have been completely neutralized with the combination of the Queen's lovingness and her canniness. They have been relegated into oblivious silence because of the way she has constructed the whole of the state. They have been kept to a large extent out of the public eye. They have been under her wing very firmly, definitely, lovingly, and forcefully. The Queen is an ace operator. Meghan needs to learn a few lessons from her in how chess is really played and how it is done when you're being positive, constructive, and loving, and how a really great chess master will trump an inadequate chess mistress, because really Meghan considers herself a chess master. She's very much a mistress of the art of overplaying her hand. They've not been able to get up to any mischief because they have been embraced lovingly. Some people would even say throttled. R-Beg2008 says, Lady C, I would like to hear your thoughts on that plastic creature Scabies, referring to your YouTube channel as a single-purpose hate account, in quotation marks. Very entertaining and droll and very witty. And for referring to you as an online conspiracy theorist. Oh dear. And this from the totally Caucasian poser as a biracial sufferer of racial victimhood, whose face now bears absolutely no resemblance whatsoever to his earlier photographs. And I can tell you, as a 72-year-old woman who has been in the public eye for most of my life and whose face is visible, your face doesn't change that much with age. No. If you compare, let's put it this way, if you compare my pictures in my 20s and my pictures now, of course, there are differences. Things go south a little bit. Your features sort of... but your eyes remain the same, hopefully. Well, I mean, they age a bit, but, they age a bit, but your nose doesn't become retroussé if it was aquiline. Oh, yes, I think your mouth does widen a little bit with the passage of time, and sometimes your lips get a little bit thinner, but that's natural aging. You don't change color, your eyes don't change shape, your everything doesn't change, and you don't become a study in plasticity. So, let me continue with the question first. He's got some goal for calling others out incorrectly when he's been outed for lying through his teeth about not corroborating that which for his book Funding Freedom. R-Beg2008. May I make the point? I haven't read it. I don't intend to read it. I have better things to do with my time than wade through the muck of the Amid Scabies of this world. When I wrote my book, Meghan and Harry, The Real Story, he waded in with a pity fest of manipulation, victimhood, and then all sorts of other rather unsavory tactics. And I told my agent, just tell him to bugger off. I said, dress it up any way you want. I said, I don't have time to waste with creatures of that ilk. I didn't then, and I don't now. I'm not interested in anything Amid Scabies has to say. He is a propagandist who has emulated Joseph Goebbels, and I am not a propagandist. I speak the truth as I find it. I don't lie to facilitate anybody, nor do I earn a living purveying lies and packaging them as if they were the truth. My channel, for those of you who are new to it, is a conversation between me and people who ask me questions. I have no control over the questions people ask. I do have a choice as to which ones I answer, and I try to answer those that are representative of the interests of, as they are displayed, of the majority. I answer the questions and address the topics that interest the viewer. If you listen, which clearly Amid Scabies must have been doing, and I know that, incidentally, that the Sussex camp has from the very outset been obsessed with my channel, and that they did everything in the early days when my book was coming out to try to bear it with the feces that sprout from their mouths when fecal matter should be sprouting from another part of the body, but their anuses are on their faces. They're full of it. They're disgusting, in my opinion. And I'd say this on a moral premise. I don't say it for any other reason. I am in favour of freedom of speech, exchange of opinions. You don't have to agree with me. In fact, people often don't. And those of you who've watched this channel for a while will know that not only do I respect people who disagree with me if they present their arguments in a civil manner, but sometimes I actually end up agreeing with them, which is what it should be. I'm 72 years old. I am the only person on earth who first of all exposed Diana's chicanery and then Harry and Meghan's. I did it in 2 books. Diana in Private, The Princess Nobody Knows, and Meghan and Harry, The Real Story. Everything that has come thereafter in both scenarios has followed in the wake of what I wrote. And I often said that I wrote Diana in Private with the view that in 50 years from the time of writing, when somebody happened upon it, they would be able to say, oh, gosh, she really got it, didn't she? The fact of the matter is, a propagandist deals in lies and illusion. It has no substance. Amid Scabies is a propagandist. He's a cheap and vulgar propagandist who isn't even making decent money out of the betrayal of what I regard as good ethical stances. Is he a success? Are the Sussexes a success? They're certainly all very good at grabbing a lot of attention for themselves and besmirching everybody else. I'm not ashamed of calling out people who play dirty tricks. That is the duty of a proper biographer and a proper commentator. Amid Scabies is a pathetic example of what not to be, not only in his presentation, Because, I mean, where did the old Amid Scabies go to? Because buried under all that plastic posing. With him, the reality keeps on changing, not only facially and visually, but in every other way. And with me, the reality has never changed and is never going to change, because there's a difference between substance and shadow. I have substance. He's a shadowy little jerk. And do I care? I couldn't care less, in fact. But please keep on informing me about his antics, because if he goes too far, snip, snip, snip. Meghan's not the only one who knows how to use the law, and I've been doing it since before any of that lot, any of them had been born. So, but I'm going to show you off the comments the reason why Harry and Meghan not only oppose the First Amendment and would want to shut down everybody who disagrees with them if they could get away with it. Well, they're not that powerful. And let's see how their attempts to keep on censoring and perverting the narrative with their lies and the lies of their propagandists, such as Amid Scabies, and their false accusations. I don't make false accusations. Every single thing I say is backed up by knowledge and fact. Amid Scabies ought to know only too well that if I had not been true blue, backed up by fact, Meghan and Harry would have sued me a long time ago. The fact of the matter is, they know and I know if they dared to try it, that would be their Rubicon, their reckoning, their Waterloo. I'm not some insubstantial little phony like Amid Scabies or Meghan Markle, a non-entity posing as an entity. I am somebody who has value because I have substance. They have no substance and ultimately have no value. That's why, despite the fact of the many advantages Meghan Markle and Amid Scabies were both born with, neither one has amounted to anything admirable so far, while I, despite having been born with a severe handicap and having been born into a troubled background, have flourished. Whose life is a lesson in what life is really about? The person who speaks the truth and stands up for what's right and proper and good, or the phony who's busy changing their appearance because they hate themselves and pretending to be things they're not. Oh, I'm a Caucasian. And however he speaks, because I don't even know how he speaks, but I'm biracial, I'm half Caucasian and half Caucasian, I'm biracial. Oh, I mean, these people, I mean, ridiculous. That's why Harry and Meghan are desperate with the assistance of creeps like Amid Scabies, to get the First Amendment amended, or to skirt their way around it, joining the Society for the Diminution of People's Freedoms and the curtailing of people's voices. Although Meghan says she wants her voice to be heard. Their membership of various groups, which are, if you've read George Orwell, nothing but Kafkaesque in their ridiculousness. To use an example that doesn't actually exist for legal reasons, they are members of the Society for the Expression of Freedom and the Liquidation of Misinformation, which rarely means the cabal for the muzzling of everybody who disagrees with them, and for their deification, despite the fact that they're not only not gods, they're not even proper human beings. They are somewhere down there on the amoeba scale in terms of spiritual accomplishment. So they want to shut down social media, they want to shut down the press. They've succeeded to an extent. They've certainly got the Mail intimidated, where the Mail is so gutless and pathetic that it doesn't even speak the truth about their arrival at St. Paul's Cathedral, because there were loud cheers, but there were also boos. You can't report on half of it and leave out the other half, and you've provided an accurate picture. But I'm going to read a few comments from people, because this puts it all into context, and it's not me speaking. It's you speaking. It's the fact that all these people, that Meghan and Harry and Amid Scabies and all that lot of elitist, illiberal totalitarians would like to silence, they're not so far silencing. And with a bit of luck and a lot of persistence, they never will silence any of us. And certainly if they try it with me, let me tell you something. They're going to discover that when I play poker and I have a royal flush, I'm not posing like them. Oh, I've got a royal flush. I'm the greatest. No, no, no. That's not the way you play poker. That's why they are failing with all their advantages, and why I have flourished, not only because of my advantages, but despite my considerable disadvantages when I was younger. So Corky says, the Harkles, the only ones driving with the car windows rolled down and hanging with the kiddies by the windows, making sure they are seen and photographed. Thirsty, absolutely. Anything for a photo op. Any lie via Amid Scabies, page 6, or any other of the publications that they leak to, the way some incontinent leaks, whether it is People magazine, Vanity Fair, or wherever, is beside the point. They knew that cameras would be focused on the windows, and they made sure that they positioned themselves. I understand, because there were about 70 people in that room, that nobody spoke to them unless they spoke to the people. And that they were iced with politeness, the way only very civilized people know how to. Maybe Harry's too dumb, and Meghan is certainly too unsophisticated and uneducated to possibly be aware of it. But they were treated with the most glorious snubs, and they made sure that they positioned themselves so that they would be photographed outside of the window. Interesting. So, Lecurki, you're right, thirsty, an unquenchable thirst for recognition. Anne Wilcox says, Meghan made sure her car window was open for that all-important photo. If Harry and her were so worried about their security, the last thing you would do is wind down the car window, so contrived as usual. Anne Wilcox, again, we come to it. People with integrity ultimately in their conduct display a line of integrity. People without integrity expose themselves as lacking integrity. Harry and Meghan, it's one piece of nonsense after the other, one plucked out of the air. Objection, victimhood, observation, prejudice against them after the other. It's all BS, and people ultimately realize it. And once they realize it, they think, thanks, but no thanks. We don't want this. James Stawan says, an article is already in Elle about what she wore and the designer. Who tipped them off? You see, this is the sort of thing Harry and Meghan want to silence. They want to silence you, the observant public, who sees through their act, their lies, their cons, their cheating, their fraudulence, as if it were not contrived. It is contrived. Who tipped them off? Who gave them all the information? Harry and Meghan's people. Harry and Meghan's people act on Harry and Meghan's behalf. Harry and Meghan are responsible for the actions of Harry and Meghan's people. It's the Nuremberg principle. It is what was established at Nuremberg. The person at the top is the one who is responsible for the actions of their underlings. Now you see why they want to shut everybody down. Janice Reeves says, I was standing outside Clarence house and can confirm Harry and Meghan were driven out of Clarence house just before Charles and Camilla en route to St. Paul's. So they all must have met beforehand. Yes, they did. They did. Royal correspondent Miss Tominey in the Telegraph didn't seem to know that, however. Well, she can't know everything. Tellingly, William and Catherine left from Buckingham Palace. William and Catherine go east when they know that the Harkles, as you call them, are going west. Suzanne Drury says, Dear Lady C, thank you so much for your wonderful tribute to Queen Elizabeth. Your knowledge of royal history is always translated in a most concise and entertaining way. Thank you. On another note, did you have a twinge of empathy for never was, never will be? I love that. That's a great one, Suzanne Drury. As she descended the cathedral steps to the cacophony of bells and boos, I almost felt sorry for her as she worked to maintain her rictus grin in the face of public scorn. One cannot help but juxtapose her with this elegant, sylph-like and authentic. Catherine, that's my interjection. She must now live with the ramifications of her jealousy, lies, abdication of duty, and lack of acceptance regarding the pecking order of the royal family. Well, I mean, how dare they? I'm a proud, confident woman of colour. I was a huge star in Suits. Everybody knew who I was. I was the biggest star in the universe. Is that not so? Mickey, Aurora, wake up, both of you. Oh, those are the flying pigs. Yeah. What a silly, narcissistic fool she is to have thrown away an opportunity to create a great legacy in exchange for hopes of Hollywood fame. And there, I think, we will bring this to an end, because I have to say, Suzanne Drury, you have hit the nail on the head. But you know, you cannot expect a pig to perform like a swan. It's not in its nature. Meghan's nature is monetization, exploitation, and me, me, me. She didn't have the sophistication, the education, the intelligence, or the spiritual qualities to appreciate the gift she had. Also, this brings her motives for being with Harry into question. A girl's got to have an exit policy. She's got to have insurance for when she needs to depart. I mean, there's almost, well, let me put it this way. It's almost impossible to be in love and self-willed in love and self-hypnotized in love with the most wonderful man on earth with an IQ of 27 and the maturity of a 16-month-old baby. And I've got to keep on telling myself I just love him so much. I mean, how long can I keep up this act for? Need to have a nest egg for in case I need to get a divorce. Community property state, here we come. We need to make some money. That's what we need to do, make some money. So at least my options will be opened up, and then I don't have to keep on telling myself how much I love this man who's just the most special, wonderful human being on earth. So intelligent, IQ of 27. So mature, mewling like a baby all the time. Not that I'm not very mature myself, because I've got the maturity of a 3-year-old. I want, and I must have. And if you don't give it to me, you're a mean and nasty person. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Nobody loves me because they think I'm so. They refuse to acknowledge how wonderful I am. Oh, dear. We have each other's pity fest going. And on that note, I will say, enough said. Thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been of some interest to you. If it has, please like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and I'm sure before those two and their team of malevolent propagandists separate, with one set going back on a private jet to Montecito with a lot of, where they're going to have private security. And they're going to have the security of ever diminishing returns. And they're going to have the security of knowing that they have Amid Scabies in London posing as Joseph Goebbels. Well, I have no apologies to make for being a believing Christian who believes in good, upstanding, sterling virtues. And who doesn't like it? Lump it or sue. And on that note, I'll say God bless and goodbye.